Let's make this casual.
Let's do it. Haley and I are excited that you all have decided to tune in. We see names, but we don't see faces yet. So hopefully you won't be shy and you'll turn those cameras on. Good evening, and thanks for joining us for our exclusive Ask Two live event. To our panelists and to all the participants, we want to thank you for taking the time to address such an important issue with so much uncertainty here in the year 2020. Dr. Purser, I know we're going to kind of dive into some things with you because you are the health authority here in Houston, Harris County. And we're going to get started in just a moment after a brief opening statement from our panelists, and you'll be able to ask your questions as well to all of those people who've decided to join us.
Yeah, but all participants, we just want to let everybody who is watching this know that all of the participants are going to remain muted throughout the conversation. But we do want to hear from you, so you will be allowed to submit your questions in the chat section. And as Chris was saying, if you're comfortable being in front of the camera, and we hope some of you are so that we can see your faces, then you can use the raise a hand feature, and then somebody from our team is going to unmute you, pull you up, and then you'll be able to ask your question and participate in the conversation a little bit.
I like to see faces, and I'm really hoping people turn their cameras on because it's really not fair.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we're going to keep this super casual, so you guys join in. Don't be scared.
Yep, and we want to make sure that everything remains cordial and respectful at all times. So first, we will address questions that were submitted via email, and then we'll answer questions by you, those who have decided to tune in tonight.
Right. So, Chris, let's go ahead and meet our panelists. So joining us today, first, we're going to introduce Dr. David Purse. He is the health authority with Houston Health Department. Welcome, Dr. Purse. Good to see you.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to a really interesting exchange of ideas and how we can make Halloween safe.
Also, Rania Mancarios, with CEO of Crime Stoppers here in Houston. Hi, Rania. We saw you today on our newscast, in fact.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. Interested to talk about all aspects of Halloween safety, whether that means you're going out or staying home, and having a great discussion. So thank you again for having me.
And we've got mother, writer, and content creator, Sarah Ahmed with Sugarland. It's Sarah, right?
Yes, that's perfect. Hi, guys. I'm a mom of two. I live in Sugarland, and I have a platform, and I'm excited to share some tips with you guys for how to go about having a wonderful Halloween this year.
Thank you, Sarah. And finally, Tiara White, Community Outreach Coordinator with Acres Homes Multi-Service Center.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me as a panelist here tonight. I'm excited to discuss with everyone about the upcoming Trunk or Treat event that we will be hosting this Saturday for the Acres Home community and other surrounding communities.
Awesome. Well, we definitely want to hear more about that event coming up, but let's kick off the discussion with Rania. So how will COVID change trick-or-treating?
Well, it's going to change it significantly. You know, this was the time of year when everybody was so excited about their costumes and running around their neighborhoods collecting candy. And of course, the biggest things on our mind were making sure our kids got from point A to point B safely. We know that it's traditionally the leading day of the year where kids can get struck by a vehicle or injured or even killed. And we always think about safety when we're talking about Halloween. But this year with COVID, we know that a lot of parents are choosing maybe not to go out or to celebrate in a completely different way. I've talked to some parents that say, I'm just going to grab my kids and go to Target, get them each their favorite candies and come right back home and not move. Other people are just going to do really small gatherings together, not involving other people, stay outside and keep it tight. And so it's really going to depend on your comfort level and your thoughts around COVID.
Yeah, so actually, that's a good question to direct to Dr. Purse. We have a question from Saida who is asking, is there a safe way for kids to trick or treat during this pandemic?
Well, I think that there are safe ways for kids to trick or treat, but the parents are going to really have to be on their game as well as the neighbors. So if you're going to go trick or treating and it's going to be your family and, your kids, mom and dad and your kids, and you go, from house to house, and then there are ways that we're recommending that the homeowners in your neighborhood you can either make goodie bags, which you leave at the end of the driveway. One idea I had was somebody could take a long tube PVC type pipe, and you could slide the candies down the PVC pipe into the kids are getting. Does it have to be 6 feet long? Well, that'd be a good place to start. it's kind of, using your creativity and just following the same rules we've talked about. Everybody should be wearing a mask. Now, a Halloween mask, generally made of plastic, is not going to be protective. It needs to be a cloth mask, 2 layers. But heck, you can decorate that to make that scary or match the rest of the outfit, whatever the child's wearing. I probably wouldn't. In fact, the CDC specifically does not recommend a cloth mask and the plastic mask on top of it, because that's just too much to make it too hard for the child to breathe. But wear masks, social distance, have fun. Mom and dad, you got to be on your game, because kids are going to be kids. And so, and the neighbors, they need to be on their game too. So we all know the rules. You just got to adapt. That's all.
Let's dive into that a little bit more, Dr. Purse, because kids will be kids, our neighbors will be neighbors, and I've seen the news stories of the pipes and sliding it down, and it would be perfect if everyone lived in a house where they had steps and they could go right down the railing. But the reality is most people probably will not do that. And I think a lot of people will probably leave, big buckets maybe of candy outside the door if they don't want to have that one-on-one interaction. But should there be concerns with kids grabbing from the same bowl? Should there be more concerns of things like that this year?
So yes, the technical answer to that is yes. That if you have anybody who gets into that bowl of candy could potentially be depositing virus in there. Now, what we're finding is the big risk of spreading the virus continues to be the droplets in the air, but there is still the potential that the spread could be within a big bowl of candy or a big bag of candy. That's why we recommend, the small goodie bags. And by the way, if you're the homeowner and you're gonna put out those goodie bags, make sure you wash your hands good and clean. Remember, one of the conundrums with this virus is that about 40% of the people who are infected have no symptoms and have no idea that they're infected or that they're spreading virus. So you could feel perfectly well at home as you're putting together the goodie bags and have no idea that you could be potentially contaminating every single one of them. So a couple of things. One is, wash your hands good before you touch the candies and touch the bags. The other thing is that if you want to do it a day or two in advance and let those bags sit, then whatever virus might have gotten on them, a day or two later, chances of them still being infectious are pretty small. So a couple of tidbits. And, Halloween, we got several days yet. So if you want to get ahead and start making those goodie bags tonight, that might be a good idea.
Yeah, but if you leave them out, they probably won't be there when it comes time for the actual trick-or-treating, right? Kids will be kids.
Driveway for a few days. I was thinking about, maybe leaving them on a kitchen counter for a couple of days.
There you go.
You have to be very clear.
Good point. Very good point.
All right, I'm going to take one of the questions from the chats here. Farah is asking, are there any activities that could be done at home if we can't trick or treat? It sounds like Sada or Tiara might know about some tips for that.
I'd love to jump in. Sure. So I think this year has been all about pivoting and being creative for all of us. There are so many ways you can make the experience really fun and magical for your kids. A couple of things real quick. The weather is great in Houston right now. I don't think we're having rain. It's also going to be a blue moon, which happens every 18, 19 years. And what that means is it's going to be the second full moon of the month on Halloween. How cool is that? So you could do a backyard camp out. You could do a barbecue. We're going to be doing a socially distant small group of kids. I think during the pandemic, everyone has formed their own little social bubble, if you will. Have 2-3 friends come over, give out little prepackaged, candies and, fun things, and still be able to have a fun, unique experience.
Yeah, Sarah, I think just to add on that, our chief meteorologist, Frank Billingsley, has noted all week that, man alive, you want perfect weather for Halloween in Houston. I think this is the year. So we do think that a lot of people will be involved, and we'll hear from Dr. Purse from the city perspective of what the city thinks about that. Tiara, I am very, very interested in the event that you guys are hosting. Tell us more about that.
Yes, thank you. So last year, we're not faced with COVID, with the pandemic that we're unfortunately facing right now. I wanted to introduce the trunk or treat to the Acres Home community. So it was our first trunk or treat for our community, and we had about 250 to 300 participants. I did not expect it. I was blown away. So I know that everyone in the community was expecting for us to have it this year. So I thought about it, and I'm like, how can I do this and stay within the guidelines to ensure that everyone is safe, to ensure that we stay within the guidelines of the city with the pandemic that is going on right now. So I chose to do it as a drive-through. We had attractions and performances and things like that on last year. This year, it'll be the same concept, just you will have to enjoy the performances, the music, the attractions, the dancing characters, the inflatables, and you will receive candy in your trunk instead of in your bucket. So before the participants drive through, we will have a Precinct 1 constable's office at the entrance of the gate to direct the traffic, have them pop their trunks, and as they drive through and enjoy the attractions and the activity and the entertainment, the volunteers, as they're social distance in their areas, will deposit the treats into the trunk. And once the participants get to the exit gate, that's when Precinct 1 Constable's Office will then shut their trunk. So it'll be a fun, festive activity, no contact whatsoever, and it'll be safe. And the children will have something to remember this year for the trunk or treat.
Wait, Tara, you said it kind of fast in the beginning. Where is that again? The location?
It's going to be at the Acres Home Multi-Service Center. In the Acres Home, it's located at 6719 West Montgomery.
All right, get ready for a big crowd.
Mm-hmm. Rania, what about the kids who will still go out? What are some kind of just generic safety issues, just given that it's Halloween and kids will be kids and people will be out?
Yeah, and we're asking people not to throw out those common sense safety thoughts that we've been talking about year after year. You know, we saw it when kids went online virtually at the onset of COVID. Everybody was just talking about, okay, do everything online, and we stopped talking about do it safely. And the same applies for Halloween. We've just got to remember that, as I said, it's a dangerous night for kids in terms of traffic accidents and pedestrian accidents, fatalities and injuries. We want to make sure your costume's breathable, that there's reflective tape, that you have a plan, a path. Are you going alone with friends? Are you going with your parents? I will say, you know, one of the things we always say is parents will call every year and say, well, how do I know if my child's ready or not? You know, are they ready to go alone? And I said, well, are you able to sit down with your child and have a conversation about a safe route and get the sense that they understand what you're talking about? And if you were to say, well, if something had to change in your route, where would you go? If somebody were to approach you that might be a stranger that made you uncomfortable, how would you respond? And I've had parents say, oh yeah, I've talked that through and my kids are fine. And I said, well, that's a good sign. And I've had parents say, well, I don't want to scare my kids. I mean, they just want to go have fun. And I say, well, if that conversation's scary for your child, they can't think it through. They're not going to be able to think it through if they're faced in real time with an emergency. So they're probably not mature enough to go out alone. We talk about having a cell phone or a way to contact your children, to have a time frame of when they will go and when they'll come back. All the things that, you know, you should be thinking about. Sometimes we don't think about them. And especially this year, we're just excited to get our kids back to anything that's normal. But we want to encourage people to pause and think about that.
So it always goes back to know your own child's maturity.
Yes, that's my staple, where we start always.
It's good advice. I like it.
Well, we know kids are different. You know, the 2 9-year-olds could be totally different. 2 16-year-olds could be totally different.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to read another question from the group here. Trista D is asking the panelists, do any of you guys know about haunted houses this year? And if they are required to be practicing social distancing, do you know what kind of safety measures that they're taking?
So I'll jump in on that one. So I don't know specifically about any of the haunted houses. We're recommending to people, if you're going to have a haunted house type event, that it be outdoors, and we're recommending that you do a haunted forest instead. But the haunted houses, like the commercial ones that we've had in the past, unfortunately, you know, the city doesn't have any jurisdiction over those with the rules that have come out. They're not required to register with us, so I don't really have much visibility on how they're going to be managing those. But again, going to the points that have been pointed out earlier, with, you know, it's kind of up to the parents to check these things out ahead of time and have an idea where you're going. And here's another point I wanted to bring up is when we talk about safety, we have quite understandably and properly been focusing on the safety of the children, but we also need to consider the safety of the adults. And so whether it be if somebody's going to have a haunted house and the people that are working in the haunted house with lots and lots of kids coming by, those people are at high risk of contracting the virus from the large number of kids that might be coming by. Again, not a good idea to do anything like indoors, like a haunted house indoors. It should be a haunted forest outdoors. Or if you're going to have a party, it should be a yard party. With the weather being great, no reason to be having indoor parties this year. They should be, if you're going to have a little bit of a party, do it outdoors. because it's not only the children that we need to worry about becoming infected by adults, but also adults becoming infected by large numbers of kids going by. In fact, the CDC just changed their guidance this week that, it's being within 6 feet of someone for 15 minutes. That got changed to being within 6 feet of someone who's infected, or being, turns out somebody's infected in 15 minutes over a 24-hour period. And that was because there were cases where they identified individuals or employees of certain places that had a large exposure to a large number of, quite honestly, it was a prison. It was a prison guard who became infected after being exposed to multiple different inmates in the 24-hour period. But the interaction with any one inmate was maybe a minute or less. And so it was a cumulative exposure to many inmates that were infected that got the guard infected.
Well,
So,
Doctor,
I don't want to compare a haunted house to a prison, but my point is, we need to care about the adults need to be paying attention. They need to be on their game in terms of protecting the kids, but also protecting themselves.
sorry to interrupt you. I was actually going to go back to how you're kind of saying that being outdoors, going to a forest, just trick-or-treating in general, outdoors, you're saying is safer than indoor activities. I also talked to a pediatrician recently, though, who said that she's worried about Halloween being a super spreading event because it is going to be nice weather and it's going to be on a Saturday. So she's expecting more people out. Is that anything that you're concerned about?
Well, I mean, I think so, but it's the same equation, right? It's the same thing of how many people and how large or small of an area. And so if you're going to have a party, you really need to, keep it to just, so let's say it's my household. My kids are grown, but, we would probably have it with my kids and maybe a couple of close friends that, in the neighborhood, a small number, and we'd have it outdoors where there's a lot of air to dilute whatever virus might be there, but not having a party with 30, 40, 50 kids and their parents and, the sort of things that might have happened last year and hopefully will happen next year. Again, it's paying attention to the simple things, the simple, rules that we've been on. Small groups, outdoors, wear your masks. And then also whatever activities you're going to have, they need to be activities where people are going to be away from each other, right? So no playing Twister for this year's Halloween game, right?
I'm going to have to cross that off my list now.
We're getting a lot of medical questions, Dr. Peirce, but I do want to bring other people into the conversation as well, and we'll get to some of these. Sheba, who dialed into the chat, was asking about, making the individual bags. She's wondering if that's a good idea, and that's something you answered earlier. So yes, Sheba. Dr. Peirce says, making the individual kind of goodie bags versus all the hands going into the same bucket is a good idea. The problem at my house is we need to make sure we make it with enough time to give our kids not enough time to grab the bags themselves and or stick them in their lunch when we're not looking. So that is a good idea. But Sarah, I want to turn to you because I think a lot of people may be wondering, we just want to have a good time as a family, maybe have some friends over. What are some ideas that we should be cultivating, thinking about as Halloween? I mean, here we are just a few days away now.
So I think one of the most important things is going to have to be mindset. I think parents in general have had such a hard year, not exceptionally so. All of us have had a hard year, but parents have watched disappointments of the school year ending last year, birthday parties, end of the year carnivals, and now Halloween. And with the holidays coming, we've still got Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I think this is a more broad question. And the idea is, if we try to be more proactive about framing this as something that just happens and it's about teaching our kids perseverance and having an adventure while we're at it, I think it would be so helpful, because I know as a mom, I have done plenty of complaining with my, mom friends about how hard it is and our kids, just want to go out and trick or treat and we can't even fathom the idea of doing that anymore. And I think if we approach that with the idea that, hey, this year we're going to do something even more fun, it's going to be creative, we're going to do a backyard thing, get the kids involved, do some DIY stuff, I think it could make such a big difference, because it's a good practice, because we will be facing the same issue again for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. So we might as well get ahead of ourselves and start, planning on a way to make this a positive thing for the kids, instead of what is the alternative to the amazing, Halloween celebrations we had every year. I think that would be really critical.
Do you feel that that's helped with your kids' mental health and helping them, kind of with their spirits? Has it helped to just prepare for a different type of event and prepare them for what it's going to look like this year?
Totally. I mean, think about it. When you have a small toddler, and when they're running and running and running across the concrete and they fall, that you're supposed to hold back that gasp, because if you gasp, they're really, really going to be hurt, and, just let it all out. And even if they're not that hurt. So I think it's the same thing. Kids look to us for direction. And when they see that you're not feeling like this is a doom and gloom situation, they're going to pick up on that and be like, okay, we'll do something fun and different, and make it fun and different. Figure out what your kids have been missing over the past few months, which elements of, trick-or-treating that they missed the most. I guarantee it's going to be the, sweets, and it's going to be seeing friends. So those are two things that you can easily put into the equation without having it be super risky or, going against what the CDC is recommending right now.
Yeah.
Tiara, you gave us some great insight into the event at the Acres Homes Multi-Service Center. Just wondering if other organizations perhaps have reached out to you, or are you hearing about other things just out in the Houston community in general about kind of some better ways, some new ideas of ways that people can bring their families together and not a whole lot of people at once, but if they are bringing in a whole lot of people, how they can do that safely?
Yes, I've been hearing a lot lately with there's been musicals and people are doing drive-in musicals, and they are actually sitting in their vehicles. They are planning to do jazz festivals. I'm seeing as well over here in the community at churches. They're driving onto the parking lot. They're staying in their vehicles, and they're enjoying concerts and things of that sort, just to get the families out of the house and just to give them something to do, to ease their mind, from throughout the week with everything that's been going on with the pandemic, and giving the kids a break, because I know that some of them have been going to school, and just giving them an activity to do, because from my understanding, kids are not doing a lot of activities at school, such as like the PE and things like that. So just giving them somewhere where they can get their energy out and get their laughter out, and it's not inside the home nor at school. So that's one of the things that I have been hearing, besides everyone gearing up for the trunk or treat event right now.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw this one out to anybody who wants to answer, but for the adults who are going to be at home giving out candy, what would your advice be if you do not want to answer the door for trick-or-treaters, like for your own for your own level of comfort? If you are choosing not to participate in any events this year, what's your recommendation for politely turning those people away?
Hide the pumpkins.
I would think decorations. Yeah, I was going to say decorations, having a sight to see, and just having just a display. I will feel that will be a certain way to say I'm celebrating and to enjoy the scenery, and just not answering the door. It's just so they just give them something to look at. Now, I know that some people, they have a way of letting trick-or-treaters know if they're trick-or-treating by setting a pumpkin out, or that it's lit, or having a porch light on. So I think that is something that the community will have to get on one accord in adjusting and saying, okay, this is how we want to let our children know that this house is accepting trick-or-treaters. So I feel like that has a lot to do with the chats. I know I see that a lot right now in our neighborhood chats, where they are setting out lit pumpkins and they're saying porch lights being on. And if you're not going to participate in trick-or-treating, then your porch light is to be off. So I feel like it comes a lot with just communication, neighbor to neighbor, within their neighborhood chats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I think about is my parents love to have kids come by, and they love to look at, what the costumes are and what the trends are this year. But, frankly, that they've been holed up in their house for the better part of 6 months now. And they're trying to do the right things, and I think this year will be the year that they'll probably keep the lights off, unfortunately. But I also understand why they're doing it. And I think for more perspective on that, let's ask Dr. Peirce about kind of where we are in the COVID numbers. We know I know you can talk about the Houston numbers, but statewide, across the country, here we are at a time when we mentioned it, Houston specifically, the weather's going to be great. The full moon, everything you want for Thanksgiving. There's no rain this year, and the temperature's going to be great. And you do want to get out, and you want to, be able to be outside and things like that. But COVID is a real thing still in our country.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is still a real thing. As you know, I just got to congratulate Houstonians and the folks in Southeast Texas, because we had a pretty decent sized wave in July. And we got those numbers down, and we got, the number of people requiring hospitalization way down. Didn't get to zero, but it got way, way down from where it was when we were peaking in late July. Now, unfortunately, it looks like the numbers are starting to tick up again. Now, slowly, but they do appear that the numbers are going up. Our positivity numbers are going up. Hospitalizations ever so gently are going up. But if you look out to El Paso, Lubbock, Amarillo, and the Valley, they've got some serious numbers, and their numbers are increasing at a much more rapid rate than ours are.
Let me jump in, Dr. Person. I apologize. Why do you think our numbers are going up right now?
I think that there's three things that are causing the numbers to go up. One is that the bars and restaurants are allowed to fill up a little bit more, combined with the fact that, let's face it, we're all tired of wearing masks. We're all tired of the social isolation, and there's fatigue of following the rules. And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus by saying that. It's hard, it's tough, and it wears on us, right? And so we start to drop our guard a little bit. Also, the schools are open, and although we've not seen problems in the schools, I really need to give it to the school superintendents. They've done a good job of putting in a lot of safeguards. We've had a couple of small problems, but nothing really big in the schools. And then the other thing is that the weather is beginning to change. There's no one factor. I think it's a combination of several things all occurring at once. Probably the biggest one is just the fatigue and being sick and tired of having to wear a mask and not being able to visit with people. That eventually, people start dropping their guard, and one time won't hurt, and those sorts of thoughts go through our minds, and so I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I've been very cautious to try with my health reports to try and not, cry wolf too soon, because in the summertime, we were at like close to 26% positivity rate. Now we're down to 6.5%, but that is an increase. So I'm just, I'm cautiously optimistic that we won't get there again. But do you think that these holidays, these celebrations are going to add to our numbers?
Well, this is what I'll say, what I've been saying all along, and that is I would, tell Houstonians, listen, we are absolutely 100% in control of our destiny. All right. We can control the virus, or we can let the virus control us. And so, we are entering that time of year when you're going to have a lot more family gatherings, whether it be Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas and New Year's and the other holidays around the end of the year. If we drop our guard too much, we're going to have trouble. If we maintain our guard from now through, say, February or so, we'll probably do pretty well. But it is up to us. Not only it's up to us as individuals, it's up to us as families. It's not up to the local government, the state government, the federal government. It's up to us as families to keep this virus under control.
Well, one thing I want to ask, and I hate to turn the whole conversation to Dr. Peirce, but I do value your insight and your position and your knowledge on the subject. One of the things that has come up in our newsroom is, and I think that people in this chat will hopefully appreciate and understand, is schools. Right, because Houston ISD is the largest school district in our state, and within one day of HISD reopening, it was shut down, and you could argue that there was a in-teacher service day and that allowed for some cleaning to go on. But there are changes going on within our local schools in terms of how they approach, engage what's going on within the hallways of their particular schools and campuses. A lot of information, Dr. Peirce, I know is coming through the TEA and organizations like that. But is it somewhat frustrating for you in your position when you have, one school district operating this way, another school operating this way, another one operating this way? Should there be more uniformity in something like that? Or what's your position on just kind of schools and the way they're approaching things?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's a difficult question, because the one thing I want to point out is that I think that we need to recognize rather that, school districts are communities to some degree unto themselves, right? Absolutely. And everyone on here is a parent, and we had our kids going to school, and we understand that the principals are part of a community leader, and then the superintendent is as well. And, those communities have slightly different values depending on where you are because of a whole long list of reasons. And so how they address the problem like a pandemic, we need to give them some latitude. We guide them from the health department. We can't, they are independent school districts, so they get to make the decision, and that's going to be the board, the teachers, the parents, and they're going to make the decision. We guide them and give them as good advice as we can. I fully expected that school districts were going to behave a little bit differently from one another. But we just wanted them to sort of all have their compass pointed in the same direction. And they really, for the most part, they have. So we've got, well, it may be different about, say, temperature taking or the size of the classroom or in-home versus at in the classroom teaching, and what % of kids do at home. I completely expected that we would see those differences. But in our conversation with the school superintendents, they really, really do want to protect the kids. And the other thing is, as well as the faculty, by the way, and the other thing we need to keep in mind in this equation is that it's really important for kids to be in school as much as they can be. So this pandemic, we need to try to balance the risks, right? What is the worst risk at any given time? So right now here in Houston, our overall percentage is low, although it's creeping up. If our numbers were back up at 26% like they were in July, I would think that the idea of having in-person schooling nobody would be doing it. But right now we're low, and so we're trying to get kids in school, trying to do it safely. And here's the last thing I'll say about it is we are all learning about this virus and how it's going to behave. So when, if you had asked me 6 months ago, or even just 4 months ago about opening schools, I would have thought it was probably a terrible idea. But now that we're doing it, we're not seeing huge problems. We're seeing little problems with schools. And most of those, when you do the investigation, you can find out where things went wrong and we can fix it. So we continue to learn. So we got to balance a couple of priorities. It's important for kids to be in school. It's also important for kids and faculty to be safe.
Well, I'll echo what Sarah pointed out earlier is kids react the way you react. And I think a lot of our hesitation with reopening schools is because everybody said you can't make a kid wear masks. But then we saw, we put these rules in place. Kids saw us wearing our masks and they're doing it. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that the schools have been in control of all of this. So with that being said, yeah, we are all parents. We're sending our kids to school. They are already being exposed to other people when they're going to school. So are we bad parents if we let them go trick-or-treating this year?
Well, if you're asking me, I would say you're only a bad parent if you let them go trick-or-treating and you don't manage the situation. If you manage the situation with the conversation we've had before with all these panelists, then you're probably being a good parent. But let me tell you what, you're going to have to be on your game because you don't have control over the home that you're going to, right? So if that homeowner is not, playing by the rules, you're going to need to, quickly pivot, perhaps even literally pivot in that situation.
Wait, because you mentioned that we don't know whose home we're going to, I want to bring Rania into this conversation. Rania, is this the time, or is it better to not know if sex offenders are in our area and along our trick-or-treating route? Sometimes ignorance is bliss, Rania.
I don't know. That's a tough one to answer in the sense of it's you never want to know, but you never don't want to know either, especially when you're sending your kids out. So we balance this line of not being paranoid and to be committed to sending our kids out either way, but doing our due diligence and our research and having an understanding of the landscape. And so we say, if it's a concern, you should be looking at the sex offender registry list in your neighborhood, in your area. There are also local police departments that actually will make rounds to make sure that certain offenders are not putting out candy, not trying to make their home appear open for kids to come in. It is something to think about, and it's something to be concerned with. I don't think it should ruin your holiday by any means, but it is definitely something to be aware of.
We do want to remind our viewers who are listening, but not showing us their faces.
I know, nobody's turned on their camera.
It's okay to be shy. But if you do have a question, don't forget you can drop a little line in the conversation chat line. And if you're comfortable, again, turn that camera on. Rania, I want to continue the conversation with you because I think Dr. Person, again, we're talking about Halloween, but I think it just in a general sense, like Haley said, we're talking about kids and we're parents. Having kids in school, Dr. Peirce said that I think we all feel it's important, right? We got to educate our youth. And in the same breath, I will argue that it's also safer. Is there crime statistics that you can throw at us or just your general thoughts on that, the importance of having kids in school when it comes to crime?
Well, we always say that the safest place for a child to be is in school, and that's a fact. But the realities are there are things you have to think about while your kid goes off to school, and that's the safety, the physical safety, mental safety, emotional safety of your child while they're there. And that requires you equipping them with conversations, with strategies, making sure the school is public safety minded, school safety minded, that your child has a family plan, understands the school's moral code of conduct. We talk about their online brand. And when I say that, parents say, what? My child's not a brand. And it's like, no, actually, everybody online is a brand, and your child is a brand, and they might be kind. They might be, liking all the things they shouldn't like, or sharing things that are inappropriate. Everybody is a brand. And so keeping your kids at school is the number one goal, but also having a lot of layered conversations about their life and the realities that they face every day is just as important.
Tiara, I have a question about, we're talking about how some events that the communities are putting on. Someone has asked, how can you celebrate if you live in an apartment? Do you have any recommendations?
When it comes to apartment complex, when it comes to trick-or-treating, I don't know the person's question. I don't know if they're saying a trick-or-treating wise or having something. Now, if it was trick-or-treating wise, then I would say signage is very important at this point. Like we already have discussed with the candy outside and things like that not being too safe, but it's just about how we're going to do the exchange with the person that is trick-or-treating, the person that is giving out the candy, and putting signage up and letting everyone know if you're actually participating. And even in apartment complexes, you can still take part in this festive night event by decorating the apartment complex, decorating the railings, having some sort of display. I feel that at this time, having some type of visual is very important right now, from not even just Halloween, but Thanksgiving and also Christmas, just having the sight of lights and pumpkins, just something new, because right now we are just faced with a time that we are still trying to get used to. So just being creative as possible and being able to absorb whatever holiday we are experiencing is just very important. So just getting fun and creative. I wouldn't say too much of having any type of events, because each household is different, household to household. Everyone is handling this pandemic differently. So I wouldn't just encourage everyone coming together within the apartment complex, because everyone is different, but you can celebrate Halloween on your own household to household. That'll be my advice.
If they do want to participate in the trunk or treating, do they need to sign up in advance?
We already had the pre-registration. That right there was just for me, so I can get an estimate on what I'm dealing with when it comes to candy, and because I've also ordered factory popcorn, so I'll be giving out popcorn as well. There's also store-bought, already pre-packaged, that I'll be able to get out. So I wanted to be able to just kind of gauge the participation. So, but if you missed the registrations, totally fine. Still come. It starts at 6:30. I would say we're gonna start lining up around 5:30. So long as you're in line by 6:30, then you'll be fine. But I want to be able to shut the event off at least around 7:15, because again, I want to take into perspective how important it is that we are getting our families into the home, because unfortunately Halloween is a time where this is an excuse to wear a mask. So I want to get families inside so no one has to deal with any type of crime or anything like that. I want to make sure that volunteers get home in time. I want to make sure that we're able to clean the property and get home safely, and so that we can be sure that nothing happens to anyone on this night where everyone has an excuse to wear a Halloween mask.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. Yeah.
Great point, for sure. Sarah, let's talk about what our kids are seeing and internalizing right now that we may not see as parents. Or, I mean, you go from a homeschool setting, then to the public school setting, then back to the homeschool setting, and trick-or-treating. Maybe we're going to trick-or-treat, maybe we're not. I mean, just kind of walk us through what we can be doing better as parents.
Sure. So I think kids are, again, going to adapt to the same mood that you're going to take. I think one of the best things that you can do is be very optimistic. I had, for example, my son was like, should we even buy costumes this year? And I was like, absolutely, we're going to buy costumes. And we're going to get excited. You know, there's so many fun, creative things you can do. If you live in an apartment, if you live in with a house that has a backyard, you could get some of those tiny little glow-in-the-dark spiders and put them all out and have a little scavenger hunt, give the kids a little flashlight, let them run loose, something different. And, you know, you can be a part of that too. Do a, you know, baking treat with them and be like, we're going to bake the best, you know, pumpkin cookies ever, something you haven't done before. And again, try to find something that's going to be of interest to them. My son's very much into Avengers. So I would be like, let's make some tonight, you know, something that will spark his, you know, interest in what we're trying to do versus me just trying to come up with a alternative to trick-or-treating. And I think if we stop saying, what can we do aside from trick-or-treating, that really helps too, because now my kids just know we're having a backyard, socially distanced hangout. They're looking forward to it. Nobody's griping about not being able to go door to door. And, you know, it's been a lot easier once I kind of shifted the way I was talking about it.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of cool ideas of what to do that's equally fun instead.
Yeah, it's like Pinterest without having to go to the internet, right?
I
there.
know.
The only idea I had
more.
was to take
I'm
my
all
kids
about
to
it.
Target, and Sarah has like 1,000. I'm like, everybody
Right.
listening to these. I was like, we're going to Target, buy candy. I don't know. I've got to be following Sarah.
Yeah.
Well, my son's only 1 year old, so this trick-or-treating is more for me than for him, but we have a costume and we're going to Grandma and Grandpa's house to ring the doorbell.
Perfect. Perfect. Hey, Dr. Peirce, we do have a question from one of our viewers tonight who's dialed in, wondering if people follow COVID-19 precautions, will that also help reduce flu exposure?
Oh, yeah. So great question. The answer is absolutely. They're both viruses and they're both transmitted one person to the next. So I think everyone should still go ahead and get a flu vaccine this year. But there is good potential if we're really, wearing the mask and social distancing, doing everything else, we could put a dent in our flu problem as well. But yeah, these precautions will help with the flu. Absolutely.
We've seen that happen in other countries who have already had their flu season, that the flu rates were lower because people were wearing masks and socially distancing.
Yeah, and we talk about being flu season. Really, that's a bit of a misnomer because this time of year, there are actually dozens of viruses that circulate. And, people get colds. There are, believe it or not, just to make it there are para-influenza viruses that make you feel kind of like the flu, but it's not the flu. And all of those are spread person to person, and we can really put a dent in all of those this year. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to have a healthy winter.
One of the stories that we had on our newscast recently was, I don't remember which company it was, but it was revealed that one of the companies, or maybe several that were, Dr. Peirce, that were looking into a potential vaccine, were testing them on healthy adults and not women who weren't pregnant, healthy adults and things like that. And so there was some concern that, again, we're talking to an audience of parents here, of whether or not, should I
Sorry, I can't hear Chris. Sorry.
Sorry, you were saying, I'll ask this question and then we can figure out the audio while he's answering. So you're asking if when the vaccine becomes available, if you should give it to your children?
Yeah, there's just some concern out there about, because of the initial trials, who was part of the trial.
And children are not part of any of the vaccine trials at the moment. So
Some of the vaccine trials are being trialed on younger people. I think the youngest one I heard was 12 years old, 12 years and above, but don't hold me to that. But I think that one of them was as young as 12 years old. And so what was the question again?
So are there any concerns with vaccinating our children when a vaccine does become available? Because we are coming up to the end of the year. We're hopefully going to have a vaccine by the beginning of next year. So it's something that we're already considering.
Right. So in vaccine production and vaccine testing, they call it Operation Warp Speed. And two things have happened to make this whole process faster. One is that compared to even just 5 to 10 years ago, the first part of vaccine production has been greatly reduced in terms of how long it takes, because we used to have to get wild vaccine, make large numbers of it, and then work to make, wild virus, and then try to make vaccine from it. Today, with the DNA sequencing, what used to take 6 months can be done in about 12 hours with DNA sequencing and building viruses. And so that's one thing that is sorted. And the other thing is the huge amount of money the federal government is thrown at this and try to get things going. But at the end of the day, what we want to make sure is that the vaccine that comes out has been properly and fully tested. And so we hear about phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 trials. And so the phase 3 trials, which there are several going on right now, they're giving vaccine to large numbers of people. They are trying hard to have a wide variety of people, multiple ages, multiple races, obviously both genders, and seeing if there are any complications from that. So part of it is how long we wait after the last dose was given to see if there are any problems. And so that's the thing that I personally be looking for, is how long did the manufacturer observe to see any problems developed? And that's going to, in my opinion, that's going to need to be, in the number of months from the last dose. So we're hearing already that there may be a vaccine ready end of November or December or January, but within the next couple of months. And so we'll have to look at those safety profiles that were done and make sure that they follow the rules before, hopefully before the FDA gives it approval.
Chris is doing a mic check for us now. We don't. No, still don't hear you. You're going to leave me here with 10 minutes left? Yeah, I know Carlos is working on it now. Oh, it sounds like we got an echo. Well, while Carlos is working on that, a reminder to those of you silent viewers, if you want to raise your hand, we'd love to pull you into the conversation. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm looking at some of the questions that we have coming up. Sarah, and I know you're a mom, and you've been talking about your plans for your kids. What's just in general been your position on social distancing? Like, how many children would you invite to a party?
So I think everyone's situation is going to be different. It's such a difficult question to answer. I have kids who have asthma, so they're going to be high risk. So I'm going to probably put them in a bigger bubble than many people would. But having said that, even with that situation, I think if you even have 4 kids together, as long as they're wearing masks, they're being socially distanced, you can have a really fun time. And I think depending on their age group, so my little one's 7. I think you probably don't want to have more than 3-4 kids of that age, because they're just going to get more rambunctious,
Yeah, that's true. Rania, I see you shaking your head too. Is that an appropriate number for your family as well?
Yeah, I echo everything Sarah's saying. I'm Team Sarah today. Yes, I think so. And I think it depends on each family. And I think one of the things we have to do is stop judging each other, and it kind of turns the page a little bit, but this is a hard time for all of us, and we're all doing the best we can. And we've got to let each of our families navigate this. Nobody knows what, everybody's dealing with, what underlying conditions may exist. So we're all just doing the best we can. We want the health and safety of ourselves and our loved ones. And I think we need to just be patient with each other and, during these very odd times.
I like the judgment-free zone, because I know, Halloween is a time when I would normally be like taking pictures of the costumes and posting it on social media, but I've been afraid to post anything on social media because of the, comments of like, oh, you're going out and you're seeing this many people, and, for every one person you see, you're exposed to their whole bubble that they've been exposed to. And I understand that. And I am certainly, maintaining proper precautions, but at the same time, I'm just afraid of what other people are thinking all the time.
Yeah, I actually was I took my kids to a farm during the summer when COVID cases were not, before the spike in Houston. And literally it was desolate. I mean, we got in our car, drove to a farm where there was almost no one. And I posted a picture of us on the way, and I got such hateful comments, like, how could you take your kid? You left the house. And I had to delete it, because I was like, we have not left our home in weeks. We're getting in the car, driving down one street, going to a farm where no one else will be there. And it was just overwhelming. And I think we've got to stop doing that to each other and to ourselves.
It's not helping the mental health pandemic that's happening at the same time. I mean, we do have to get a breath of fresh air every once in a while just to try and forget about this, try and relax and regain composure. I saw Chris doing some funny things with his microphone. He's trying to signal to Carlos where things are plugged in and if things are. Carlos, he's asking if the red light means dead battery. Technical difficulties here.
Well, I think you should just ask about some final thoughts.
Yeah, we actually are coming up to the end of our panel discussion. So I'd like each of you to chime in if you've got some final thoughts or suggestions. Let me know now your thoughts.
I don't have any thoughts. Just wanted to invite everyone out Saturday, October 31st from 6:30 to 7:30, 6719 West Montgomery. Come out in your costumes. Let's have a great time in spite of everything that we're dealing with right now. Let's have some fun. That's all I have to say.
That's perfect. Rania?
I'll just add that Crime Stoppers of Houston is really your neighborhood public safety nonprofit. Our goal every day is to keep everybody safe, no matter what we're facing. So follow us, join the conversation, and no matter what your plans are for Halloween, we wish your family all the health and safety imaginable.
Will you let her know that her story at
Hold on.
5 or 6 o'clock, she talked openly about COVID-19, how it's impacted Crime Stoppers in funding?
Oh, okay.
There'll be a link to that story if anyone wants to figure out a way to give to it.
Yeah, I don't know if you could hear Chris.
I heard a little bit.
He was mentioning the story about Crime Stoppers funding. And you want her to add a little bit on that,
Yeah, I would just
to elaborate?
Let our people know that it'll be on our website because they.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's saying that story is up on our website. So
Thank you. I really appreciated that today. Thank you, guys.
excellent. Yeah. And Sarah, please, do you have any more Pinterest ideas for us?
No, but I will say, I think, do the best you can, mamas. Like, have a good time and extend some grace for yourself and for other moms. I think we're all doing exactly what Rania said, the best that we can. It's a hard time, and just spread some grace. Yeah.
Perfect. Dr. Peirce, what would you like to say?
I just like to remind parents, it's now through the entire holiday season, it's going to be a question of being smart and being creative. And I think that your panelists here, aside from me, have come up with some really great ideas on how to make holidays, whether it be Halloween or Thanksgiving or whatever. Put it forth a little thought, and you give me ideas. So we're gonna have some fun this holiday season.
Yeah, because we don't want to kill the fun. So we probably want to do this again around Thanksgiving and around Christmas to just help us get a little bit more in the spirit without focusing on what we've lost this year.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome back.
Just in time to say goodbye.
Strategic.
Yeah, right. No, I think this has been very beneficial, like Dr. Peirce said. And again, just for all of us here at Channel 2, we're so grateful that each of you took time out of a busy night. I think Rania and Dr. Peirce are sometimes on TV more than we are, and so we know that you value your time away from the spotlight, away from work. But thank you. It means a lot to us and to our viewers that you would take the time to answer some of these questions, because we do get so many questions about specific topics day in, day out. And so thank you again from all of us here at Channel 2.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All
It's
right.
been great.
Until next time, have a great night, everybody.